Wait, I'm already being recorded? I hope my wife doesn't catch that. What's going on, Orlando students? I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day today on this Wednesday night. And I'm so glad you decided to join us right here on our YouTube channel. So, for the past couple of weeks, we have been in a series called Social Faith. And in that series, we've been talking about how our faith and how social media interacts. Social media in and of itself is not a bad thing at all, but it can be a problem if we don't use it correctly, especially as a Christian. As a Christian, it is extremely important that we are wise in how we use and how we interact on social media. Because believe it or not, even if you hit that delete button, that stuff will follow you forever. So I thought the best way to wrap up this series would actually be able to talk to a professional. As much as I would like to believe I am not the professional psychologist. But I do have a couple of friends that are in that field, and so tonight we are going to have a special guest. Her name is Desiree, and she's been in the psychology field for a long time. She is a great friend of mine, and so here in a few minutes we're going to cut to that video, my interview that I have with her, and I want you guys to pay attention because she has some great information in there for you. So before we jump into the video, if you guys have not been following us on IG, you're missing a couple of things. One, you're missing games and prizes, so you're not getting any of that. But two, we have been voting on our logo for our Orlando North students, and we are about to choose that logo. So tonight is the last night that you can vote on our logo. So if you're not following us, just look down below. You'll be able to find our Instagram channel, our Instagram link. It'll be showing up here on the video. So make sure you vote by tonight because Thursday morning we will be making a pick on the logo that receives the most votes. Now remember, we've already had a couple votes in. One, the leaders and the staff have already voted on a logo, and some of the students have already voted on the logo that they like the best. And so we are going to take the one that has the highest vote. So make sure you vote for the one that you had, the one that you want. And only one vote counts, so you can't vote twice. You can only vote once. But after tonight, whatever votes we have, we're going to choose that logo. So if you're not following us on IG, you follow us down below. You'll be able to find it, and then make sure that you vote. Now, before we get into my interview with my friend Desiree, I want to read the verse that we've been talking about all month long. As we're wrapping up this series, I just want to remind you of what we've been talking about. It's found in Matthew chapter 12, and it's verses 33 through 35. And it says, either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad. For the tree is known by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasures brings forth evil. So we've been talking about this series and the importance of how you communicate. Because right here, Jesus is talking to the religious leaders of that day, and he's saying, look, out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth speaks. So you can't say one thing and believe you think another thing. He's saying what is in your heart actually comes out in the way that you speak. And that is the same way with social media. How you communicate with people online is just as important as how you communicate with them in person. Because believe it or not, what you say online is a reflection of who you are in person. And so we need to make sure that as Christians, we are setting an example, not just for ourselves, but for people around us, because they are watching us. Once you say that you are a Christian, or once you say that you are a believer, sorry, my phone is ringing. But once you say you're a Christian, or once you say that you're a believer, they are going to take note. So be sure that you are careful in how you interact with people, especially online, because that can come back to bite you if you're not careful. So enough about that, enough about me talking. Let's cut to this interview. It's going to be a great one. Be sure that you pay attention and take notes. All right, so my students will get to know you a little bit. So just share about a little bit about your story.
Sure.
Just a little bit.
Hi, I'm Desiree Paddock. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I also am a licensed addiction counselor. And I think it all kind of started because we all have our thing that starts us.
Yeah.
Just being raised in a family that was extremely dysfunctional, and we knew it, but we never got any help for it. So I was not born into faith, but through the graciousness of a stepfather and his faith, he introduced me very early at age 6, and man, I soaked in the love of people of faith and of Christians and the church. And I just like, I could have lived at church just because it felt safer than anywhere else. And so I really felt like I got really strong in my relationship with God and felt very called. I actually was called into therapy, believe it or not, at a youth camp.
Oh, wow.
And that story, man, I could tell that, but it'd take too long. So basically, I was called into doing therapy and being the supporter, basically the first responder to people's inner health and well-being. And so from age 14 to now, I knew exactly where I was going, and I was determined and focused to be the best that I could be because that calling was so strong in my life.
So why is mental health so important? Because I believe it's extremely important, and I'm glad that it's a conversation now on the national level, because it used to be a stigma attached to it. And I'm so
For
glad we're all
sure.
talking about it now. But why is it so important?
I think that it's important that people realize that we're holistic in the fact that one of the approaches that I take all the time is the biopsychosocial spiritual side. So what that means is every human being that lives, we have a physical side where, you could get physically sick or be physically healthy. We have a psychological side, which is that mental health component of like, do you have things going on chemically, behaviorally, environmentally that is impacting you more internally, but will eventually come out externally. And then you got the emotional side, which again kind of ties into that mental health. And then you've got the social side. We are relational creatures. We need each other. We learn from each other. We grow from each other. We also can do some bad things if we're influenced incorrectly. But that's a huge dynamic, and that's a huge part of our environment. And then we've got our spiritual side. That's like, are you connected to something bigger than yourself? Because if you're not, you're not getting the power that you need to live your best life. So when you look at somebody and you say, okay, they have a biopsychosocial spiritual, if you're missing one of those elements, you're going to feel that kind of brokenness. You're going to feel like something is missing, something needs to change.
Yeah, for sure. So me specifically, I'm a youth pastor. So my concern is definitely teenagers. And one of my concerns with them is the kind of information that they take in, especially over social media. I don't think it's healthy at times. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So I'm all about balance, technology in and of itself, media in and of itself could be neutral, like it could go either way. You can have some great pros, I can connect with you far, far away because we have that ability now. That's awesome. But I can also compare my life to you in a negative way. That's not awesome. So when we look at even mental health, that's kind of what we're gauging. Is it at a neutral space? Is it at a awesome space? Is it at a, that's no good. That's maladaptive. That's bad. And so when you look at social media, a lot of it has to do with not so much what it is, but what people do with it. So if you're going on and you're isolating yourself, withdrawing from your real life experiences, if you're comparing yourself and having all these more negative self-talk moments, if you're getting into things you shouldn't be getting into, whether that's doing inappropriate things, saying inappropriate things, this avenue that could do a lot of good can also be a pathway for a lot of danger. And so when it comes to not only teenagers, but adults they're basically older teenagers, like we're all in the boat with you guys, like
Right.
We don't always make the wisest decisions, but you have to consciously think about what you're doing with what you have.
Mhm.
What perceptions are you doing? And honestly, like, social media, majority of the time, is fake news. I
Yeah.
mean, people, I've seen them, and it drives me insane. They take the same picture 20 times to get the whatever angle. I still don't know how to do it. And I'm like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Like,
Right.
you can't hide behind your computer
Mm.
and expect people to know what's going on in your mind.
Yeah.
You know, like, a lot of what we're seeing in the mental health field is there's a lot more depression and anxiety symptoms because of the constant information that social media provides to us.
Sure.
And even going a step further than that, even some of the ADHD stuff, it's not so much that people are more inclined to it, it's that we are constantly soaking up all this information. So you don't know what to focus on. And then when we don't have it, it's like, whoa, what's happening? And you have like a malfunction. It's not that you actually have ADHD. It's that we have changed our culture so much. And honestly, the diagnosis has not caught up with us yet.
So we've been in a series called Social Faith, and that's exactly what I've been talking about. One, the social media in and of itself isn't bad. It's neutral. It's really what you do with it. And two, at some point you got to get from behind the keyboard because that's not where your life is. So
Right.
yeah.
You know,
So how
I
can
think that's
we
the big part, is to
get from
live
behind it?
your real life.
Yes. Yes. Talk about that so many times. That what people post on social media, most of the time it is definitely fake. They do that 20 pictures angle. They make sure they get the right image or say the right thing or type out the right thing. You don't get to actually see the real person behind social media. You only see what they want you to see. So
And I think also it doesn't prepare you for like real life conflict.
sure.
Because, like, let's be real, conflict's going to happen when you got more than one person in the room, unless
Right.
they're, again, somebody who has schizophrenia and can argue with themselves. But, you know, I see it in normal life. People don't know how to filter properly or self-soothe, so they blow up over nothing, versus if they had the chance to, like, stop, type, retype, stop, type, retype, delete,
Uh-huh.
whatever. And that's not real life. Like, you're going to have to go in and communicate sometimes with people that you do not like
Amen.
to do what you need to do.
Yes.
And some of them are authority figures, like
Mhm.
parents or, coworkers or bosses. And you can't just be like, oh, hold on, I'm going to spurt this all out and then I'm going to try to delete it. That doesn't work.
Right.
Once it's out, it is out. So you
Yeah.
gotta have those real life experiences and interactions with people so that you have that experience.
Yeah. That's been one of my biggest warnings to students. Once you post something on social media, it's there. You can't delete it. You think it's gone, but it's still there.
I
So
know you come from that IT background,
I do. I
Hey,
do.
y'all, he's a hacker.
I
I'm
didn't
just
post
saying.
that. Oh man, I haven't done that in so long. But yeah, you can find anything on the internet. It's crazy. So as leaders and as parents, what are some ways we can help our students with their mental health and help them process and grow in this
So
area?
you asked about some resources, and I am awful about, like, here's a book, But luckily, I actually have been reading a book that I think that parents should read, and
Hmm.
I got it right here. It's called 13 Things Mentally Strong Parents Don't Do. And it's by a therapist, Amy Morin. Sorry, I was like, oh, I
Oh.
can't read it backwards. But anyway, she's done a really good job as far as, we talk about resilience as kind of a big topic right now in our industry, of just how do you bounce back from bad stuff, or how do you bounce back from things you don't feel comfortable with. And that goes into how parents can be teachers and leaders and influencers in their kids' lives to make them mentally strong. We want them to be highly educated, so we push them towards doing well in school. We want them to do really well in competition, so we push them in sports. But what we don't usually equip them life skills wise is to be mentally strong, to be ready for the things that are going to come their way, because life does that. We will have really high highs, really low lows, and everything in between, and then call it salad. But if you're not ready for that, if you're not basically in the gym for your brain, then you're going to break. And as parents, we really want to equip our kids with the best. And sometimes that gets in the way. We try to protect them too much, don't give them enough independence. But really, we just need to come up with a way to have a better fencing system. Like, when your kids are babies and you have a baby, you got a backyard that it has a fence, because they could go into the road if they didn't have that fence. So that's the parent's job, is to put that fence up and say, go at it, enjoy learning things and experiencing things. You might get hurt along the way, but hey, if you stay within this fence, I know that you won't get into like real danger.
So if there's one thing that you could tell a student about mental health, what would that be?
I would just say check in with it just like you check in with anything else in your life. So what that means is, like, I actually have a habits tracker for myself, because I set goals. I say, okay, I've got the goal weight of X pounds, but how am I gonna get to that goal without actually establishing habits? So I will write down, okay, I need to take my vitamins, do a gallon of, look, I got a gallon of water that I've been trying to jug every day, see if it works. 30 minutes of movement. But I mean, some of those things are very basic, but they change your world because you're thinking about it. So, therapists, we all like to talk about the triangle, your thoughts impact your emotions, that impact your behaviors, that impact your thoughts again. But this is actually a really good system to think about, because if you can figure out how you're thinking that is associated with good feelings, you can do more good behaviors, right? But if you don't know, you can't change those bad thoughts if you don't know. So just track that stuff, like think about it. And then I'd also say reach out. One of the biggest things that I loved to see and still love to see is when people have their light bulb moments. Like they go, oh, something is wrong. I may not know how to explain it, but I'm going to go reach out to my pastor. It doesn't have to be your parents. It can be somebody else, a trusted adult, my teacher, my counselor at school, And the only reason I don't say just go to your friends is because those adults have life experiences that, you and your friends may not have.
It has been so much fun.
Yeah, anytime.
Wow. Thank you so much to my friend Desi for that interview. I hope that you guys enjoyed it just as much as I did. Guys, that wraps up our final week of our series, Social Faith. I hope that you guys enjoyed it and that you took some notes and that you took it to heart, because it is important how we portray ourselves, not only in person, but also on social media. Also, remember to be following us on IG. There's a lot of things going on there. We're doing games. We're doing giveaways. Remember, tonight is the last night to vote on our logo for our student ministry. You want to be sure that you're a part of that, because that logo is going to be around for a while. So you have the opportunity to help us make a decision on the logo, and we want to hear from you. Starting next week, we're going to have a brand new series called Fresh, and we're going to be looking at some of the image problems of the church and some of the questions that people might have about church, and we're going to try to address some of those. So you want to be sure that... I I am so excited about that series starting next week. We're going to be tackling some really big questions. So be sure that you tune in next week at 7 p.m. on Wednesday night. Cannot wait to see you guys again. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, if you're not doing so yet, be sure that you're following us on IG. We are taking votes on our new logo, and the voting closes tonight. So be sure that you get your vote in before 12 o'clock tonight, because after that, we're not taking any more votes, and the logo that has the most votes is going to win. I cannot wait to see you guys again, but until then, have a great week.